Get ready to pay more for your McDonald's Big Mac in 2020. Cattle futures are spiking and are almost back to the highs of last year. That's amid signs there could be fewer cows brought to market next year. But higher beef prices are just one of the big trends in food we could see in 2020. Our food correspondent, Heidi Cheung, is here. Food correspondent, I like that one.
I like that too.
All right,
Thank you.
All right, Heidi. So at the end of the day, we might see higher beef prices next year, higher hamburger prices, so get ready.
Yeah, so when we showed that chart earlier, we saw that cattle future prices sort of stabilized in September, and then we're seeing that big spike into year end here. And of course, when we think about cattle futures and beef prices, this is important for a lot of companies like McDonald's, Shake Shack, places that are selling burgers, right? Because in a burger, what are you getting? You're getting beef. Mm-hmm. And the reason why we worry about commodity inflation, beef inflation, pork inflation, whatever it may be, is because that puts a real big pressure on margins for a lot of these companies. And in turn, that means they might have to raise prices for the products that they're selling consumers. So this is something that consumers should also be thinking about as we go into 2020. But for some context on just how much it's going to impact markets next year, Telsey Advisory Group, which is a research firm, just put out recent analysis that says the price of beef trimmings, which of course is the key cost for a lot of these hamburger chains, is expected to rise almost 15% next year. That's a hefty amount, exactly. Yeah. And this firm also saying that that will put the stiffest margin pressure on a lot of these companies in the past 5 years that we've seen. So in terms of how much it's going to raise prices of our hamburgers, that's still yet to be known. But places like Shake Shack on their most recent earnings call earlier this month, management saying we are keeping a close eye on beef prices. It looks like it's going to affect our Q4 and also 2020 for them. All
right, well, $10 Big Mac, here we come. But if they're just selling beef, they could switch to plant-based beef, right?
Well, that's a big trend that we saw in 2019. And I think you and I can agree, we don't see that going anywhere anytime soon, right? 2020 is going to be another big year, a big test for companies like Beyond Meat, because right now Beyond Meat is the only pure play in the market, right? But if competitor Impossible Foods comes into the space, and we have bigger companies like Nestle and Tyson looking to also get in the plant-based meat craze, that could also put pressure on Beyond Meat. So pay attention to plant-based meat. It's not going anywhere anytime soon.
And also, we have to pay attention to the delivery wars. I recently caught up with Domino's CEO Richard Allison, and he was not lost for words on the state of the likes of a Grubhub and Postmates. He says their business models are just not sustainable.
But if you think about these businesses, right, the third-party aggregators, which is just a fancy way of saying third-party delivery services, these companies were putting a lot of pressure on these original delivery companies such as pizza stores, right, like the Domino's and the Papa John's. Back in the day, the only kinds of foods you can get delivered to you were usually Chinese food or pizza. But the world has changed. And so we've seen a lot of restaurants sort of adapt to that and partner with these third-party aggregators. But now we're in a very precarious place, right? Because there's so many players. We have Grubhub, which is dominant here in New York, but it's not necessarily the dominant name over in the West Coast. On the West Coast, it's DoorDash.
What about Uber Eats?
So exactly, Uber Eats. We have Postmates. There's just so many in the space. I think in 2020, it's safe to say we're going to see more consolidation as people try to bring these companies together because there's just too many competitors. Look at that.
Real killer chart there. A lot of players in that meal delivery space. And Allison went on to add, he told me, quote, he sees a shakeout in the third-party delivery space. He wasn't sure if it would happen next year, but at some point, if you're a Grubhub, you're a Postmates, you can't keep losing all of this money because you're giving away free food delivery. It doesn't make any sense.
And of these companies, I think Grubhub is the most notable one because the company just had a terrible year. Shake Shack is one of the companies that's actually partnered with Grubhub and continues to partner with Grubhub. Shake Shack also saying that they saw pressure because of that partnership. And so I think we're in a place where these companies are going to have to start to figure out what their business model is going to continue to look like and whether or not we're just going to have to see some of these companies get together, like the DoorDash and Postmates. Do you think that they might come together as a company?
They sure could be, and we will be here to cover. And I will leave it on this, Heidi. I think next year is the year of Beyond Meat Bacon. We'll leave it there. We'll talk more about it upstairs. All right, Heidi Cheung, good to see you.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.